This is Gabriel Gonzalez for Cage Side Press here with Bas Rutten, who stars in The Smashing Machine. Boss, I gotta say, you've been a part of several different projects. What was it like, getting to play in this kind of role for The Smashing Machine with Dwayne, Emily, and obviously directed by Benny?
It was awesome. It was, well, I played myself, right? So I had to go back 25 years to the guy I was at the time, which was just a little bit more energetic. But for the rest, I've been teaching, doing everything. And then, as I mentioned before to some people, I mean, Dwayne was so amazing as being Kerr. So for me, it was literally, I was just teaching Kerr again in the gym because the whole set, everything was so nice and relaxed. The way Benny Safdie works is really amazing. He keeps everybody nice and calm. Other than sometimes you have directors who scream at their actors. And I go, I don't know if that's the way because now you put fear in them. You don't want to mess up, and. So I think once that fear is there, it's not good. And fighting, everything relaxed is the best for me, at least. And for most fighters, there are some fighters, but not a lot, who need that anger. They need to get angry in order to fight. But thankfully, I never had that. Peace and quiet was always the way to go, and that's what we did.
I would like to touch on one of those things. You don't see this that often. You are playing yourself, but this isn't a documentary, it's a dramatization. So it is also scripted, but it is you playing you. You actually know what was said and done in those days. You just don't see anyone, an individual or an actor have to do this that often. Can you just talk a little bit about that? It's like, did you feel like, yep, this is exactly me back in the day, or did you feel more like, you were playing a character? It just happened to be yourself.
No, Benny made it. He said, "I'm gonna." The first meeting we had when I found out that he wanted me for the part, he says, "I'm gonna send a script. There's lines." He says, "But those are just for you guidelines. I want you to do what you do because it's you. Why would I change it?" So I just put some guidelines in there, and then you make it just yourself. So I was completely free from all dialogue. Yes, it's a certain direction, the direction it went because we saw the Smashing Machine documentary. And that just bring me back into teaching. And so yeah, for me it was like I said, I was just training, teaching Kerr, and the whole environment was like people don't realize what Benny has done. Like when you went to the fights there, everything that even didn't get filmed in the back, like in Japan, everything was Japanese. All the little cars that were driving around Japanese. The people have little hats on, like they would have in Japan. The drinks were the Japanese drinks. The Tokyo Dome lights. He went back in time to get the cameras that they used at the time and this is the crazy part. The cameras for the broadcast, but also the cameras that are people walking around that are going to the big screens because they were different cameras. It has to be the same. That's the kind of guy that Benny was. So everything that you saw were in the 2000 again. The clothing everybody was wearing. I'm laughing the whole time when I see my clothes because I go, I was real what wearing that? Yeah, I had a fanny pack, not in this movie, but like in '93 when I went to Japan when I started fighting there, I remember having a fanny pack. Well, that was the time that we were wearing that kind of stuff. So if you get brought back in that time and then you have a person like Dwayne playing like he is freaking Kerr, the way he moves, his mannerisms, everything, he laughs. I mean, even the mouth, the movement of the mouth, everything was him. And then putting me in a teaching position. Well, I've been teaching for 40 years, if not longer. So sign me up, I can do this, because then I'm just teaching Kerr.
What I like is you definitely answered my next question, which was how did you feel that Benny did in succeeding bringing in that Pride era in 2000s? It sounds like he did a smashing job, pun intended. So I would like to ask you this, another one. Obviously, you were there with Mark Kerr back in the day. What is that first moment like when you see Dwayne Johnson full makeup with the hair and the mannerisms come on set and he is Mark Kerr?
Shocking. We've been in contact, have interact over social media for all these years because I've always been a big fan of his. And then suddenly meet him, and I mentioned this in other interviews. He grabs me and he gives me a big kiss on my head, and I go, okay. But then I realized that was Kerr. Kerr always used to do that when he saw me. Oh, Basi, no, he's back. And so, once you see that, it was crazy. The very first day, my very first thing that I had to do was together with Ryan Bader, who played Coleman and did a phenomenal job as well, by the way. And then Emily Blunt was coming on the set, and I just saw her, and it was fun, it was a fun thing. She just, hey there, bang, 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 bang. She does that to me because so she watched the Street Fighting DVD, so that was a nice thing to also on top of it. But she was still in regular clothing, and we started making pictures, still pictures for a poster that they were going to release. And then suddenly I heard something behind me, and I was already looking at DJ. DJ had all the tattoos are gone. He has only the tattoos that Mark Kerr had on. I mean, just to go through it, that's hours a day, guys. People don't understand how difficult that is. All these he had was wearing the same shorts. So when I saw him, I was like, "Whoa, that was Kerr," and I'm getting goosebumps. And then I hear something behind me, and there's Dawn, played by Emily, his ex, the ex from Mark Kerr, and she was dressed up like, and she had that whole aura already. Like bring it. You don't want to mess with this one. One of these ladies. And I was again that, and this time I said it. I said, "Dude, I'm getting goosebumps. This is crazy." He had the cauliflower ear. He was Kerr, and the way he was speaking as well. So I think he jumped right away into it, right for the very first time that we met. I only saw him as Kerr.
I'm glad you touched on Ryan Bader. I think that he definitely shined. I don't need to tell you, when you have the fighters or athletes kind of get to star in a movie, they're not often given a lot to work with. They're kind of maybe in the background, not as much. They gave Ryan Bader a lot to do, and he had to hold his own in scenes with Dwayne, with Emily, who obviously have been in quite a few things. How do you feel that Ryan Bader performed when you've seen it back now, the finished product?
Oh, I texted him right away after I saw it. I saw it like 6 weeks ago, I think, for the first time. And I go, dude, you might have a career out of this. I mean, you're super cool. You're relaxed. I mean, even Alexander Usyk, this that scene. Like people, they think, oh, he's just playing himself. You have no idea what it is. It's the same as in fighting. Like, oh, I can spar good. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Do it under pressure. See how that feels. For me, it took like 8 or 9 fights in order to get calm. Now, I actually really started getting calm in my first fight in Japan because I think the audience was quiet and that's where I really got into my own. But it takes a while. It's the same as doing interviews, right? You're nervous. So if a guy like that, but thankfully he's already used Usyk to doing interviews and live interviews, and that helps a performer very much because if you mess up, you know how to get out of it. But then he comes on, hey, he's smiling, he's having fun. It's very hard for people to understand that. Okay, smile now. Well, good luck with that with three cameras in your face. Yeah, yeah. No, real smile. Oh, now it's really on because now they can see that it's a fake smile. You see, so you're going to have to promote yourself in that position, which again, with a guy like Dwayne or with Emily Blunt, is really easy because they are that person. And if somebody naturally laughs at you, hey, go, hey, how are you doing? You're naturally back, but you need to be in that zone for that. Because if you are thinking about all the people who are watching and around you, yeah, it's not going to pull off any performance. So Usyk also, I go like, dude, he never acted. That was pretty amazing, actually.
I do want to ask you, as we're running out of time. You were obviously there back in those days for the Grand Prix with both Marks. The movie does a great job, but I'm wondering, what do you remember most about going into that event and just maybe any other stories that didn't get to make it into the movie?
No, I think they were very authentic with everything. And I saw these conversations between Coleman and between Kerr, and they know, yes, it's a friendship and we love each other, but hey, only one guy can win. Now we're going to find out all these wrestling sessions that they had against each other, training. Trust me, they're already fights. You know it are. Nobody likes to lose. These guys are freaking alphas, and even in training, if they would lose one time, they go home and go, damn, he's got me. I know how that is because that's how we fighters are. We always want to be the best, even in training. So they kind of did it already before. Now it's just with more violence because now somebody might get knocked out. So, but they very peacefully said to the side, we'll see, we'll cross that bridge when it happens. But when it happens, oh, I'm going to win. Oh, no, I'm going to win. Then we had that conversation. Go, guys, let's talk about that. We'll cross that bridge. That line, I think, has been used a lot in that movie, in backstage.
My final question, when I saw the movie, one of my biggest takeaways was that, sometimes the people closest to us may not always be what's best for us. And obviously, the story of Mark and Don in this movie is pretty much the anchor of the story. I wanted to ask you, how do you feel that that was portrayed? Obviously, you've gotten to know a lot of fighters over the years. Do you feel like the movie does a good job of really illustrating why that is true for a professional athlete in MMA?
Oh yes,
Sometimes, sometimes.
I will say it actually more. It's true for every person on the planet. If a pro wrestler, this if you need to become a relaxed, and your mind needs to work at 100%, you need to be calm. You need to be relaxed because otherwise the body-mind connection is not there. And if you come out of a household where there's fights and everything is a freaking fight constantly, there's a battle going on, a mentally battle, and sometimes it got physical, and you start hitting things because you can't hit her because things are breaking and she's challenging you to fight. I mean. Yeah, now people see, well, wait a minute, that happens? That happens a lot. Because a lot of it, if you have a girlfriend already before you started, I think that's a big good thing. But once you start changing, some people get famous, for instance, and then they believe they can get another girlfriend suddenly because they start getting more famous, and that's when the trouble enters. Because those ladies are not used to it. And those ladies, they want you for a different reason. So now it's like this thing, and then the doubt comes in. Is she with me for me, or is she with me because I'm a champion? He didn't have that. They just had a very toxic relationship. But there's a lot going on in the mind of a fighter. And you have to understand we're also human. That means that if certain things, if that happened to you, when you start metastasizing on it and playing in your head, that can really affect you in the fight. So having peace at home is a big thing that you need. But we were very hyper guys, fight athletes in general. You have to, and there needs to be some pride. You can't go to a fight saying you're going to lose. Well, you're going to fight Fedor Emelianenko. I didn't speak. Yeah, what are you going to do? I said I'm going to win him. Oh, well, you think you're going to win him? I go, well, I don't think it's a healthy thought of me to think, oh, he might beat me tonight. I think you always have to be convinced of yourself that you're going to win, and for that you need an ego. Now you have to separate that ego, of course, that you don't use that ego and pride outside of fighting. But I think you need a chip on your shoulder when it comes to fighting, because otherwise it's just not good for the mind. Then you make yourself insecure. So now, and again, that needs to be real. So because if it's not real, well, you know when it's not real or when it is real. You see, and then it starts again. And it's like, and there's certain things that you do. You always want to bring this, you always want to bring that. We get superstitious about certain things, and if that gets taken away, like there's a lot of stuff that goes on in any performer, and all musicians, you name it. But relaxation is the key to success. I always say that was at least for me.
Well, boss, look, it was a fantastic job. I don't need to tell you, there's not too many big projects yet that are MMA centric in terms of dramas. You guys might have arguably the best one that we've seen yet on the big screen. So, congratulations to you and everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, The Smashing Machine in theaters soon. You guys definitely check it out.